Hello again, and thank you so much for joining us for this Wednesday's edition, middle of the week now, of Alaska Weather. On this 25th day of August, 2021, I'm Dave Percy, meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show once again. Up first, we've got hazardous weather graphic, which again have no hazardous weather areas illuminated. Southern Alaska, no watches, advisories, or warnings out. Same thing for the northern interior, right out to the Arctic coast. No advisories, watches, warnings. And the Aleutian Bering Sea, anything but a watch or warning out there with pretty good high pressure, keeping conditions pretty light, both precip and wind-wise. On the satellites here, you can see one mass of clouds with a front moving into the central interior of the state, especially kind of dragging back across Bristol Bay there toward the northern Alaska Peninsula. It really washes out there. And then another weak low out over the southern Bering Central Aleutian areas, really kind of just dropping southward and dissipating as it goes. Only brought 1 or 2 hundredths of an inch of precipitation to Adak. Atka may have had something a little bit more there. They appear to be under the more rain-producing area of clouds, but either way, it's pretty light. Winds light as well. And some of the clouds now spreading into Kodiak Island with rain, pushing across the Alaska Range into the Susitna Valley, Cook Inlet during the day today, with light rain now falling all across Cook Inlet and portions of the Kenai Peninsula, but kind of a break there over the Copper River Basin, North Gulf Coast. Not so much clearing wise, but let up in the shower and rainfall activity there, with areas of light rain all the way up into the Yukon Flats today, even the southern Brooks Range area. I believe 12 hundredths of an inch fell at Fort Yukon, for example, but even heavier amounts there in the mountains northeast of Fairbanks around Chena or Upper Chena, 1/4 to a 1/2 inch falling there, and then more or less like 1/10 of an inch back down toward the Middle Tanana Valley area. Otherwise, heaviest rainfall in the state occurred on the eastern North Gulf Coast area from actually Yakutat. Had 3/4 of an inch in the 12-hour period ending at mid-afternoon today. Dry Bay at about 1/2 an inch. By contrast, let's see, Net had roughly 16 hundredths of an inch of precipitation during the day today. Otherwise, in the interior, northern coast or central interior, say Sparivon, their western Alaska Range, 15 hundredths of an inch. Tatalina, farther to the north, had about 3/10 of an inch of precipitation. Otherwise, got winds gusting 35 miles an hour out of the north-northeast to Cape Lisburne. Kind of surprised me on the direction there. I would have thought it was, with the next front kind of approaching there from the west, I thought it would have been south-southwest. But anyway, a little breezy along the northwest capes there. And Savunga, west-southwest winds, gusting 30 to 35 miles an hour there for St. Lawrence Island, and that extending up and toward the Bering Strait area. Otherwise, Kenai, head of that front coming into Cook Inlet, southwest 25 miles per hour in gusts with rain, again falling at mid-afternoon. And on the chart, there's a front edging its way eastward, starting to break up, and will kind of break up rapidly overnight tonight and dissipate as it continues eastward. The next one there over the Russian Far East, dropping east and southeast, will take more of an easterly turn, and kind of a dragging, weak trailing edge will come across southern Alaska with that over the next day or two, or for tomorrow and tomorrow night into early Friday. Otherwise, the Panhandle today seeing some rain over the southern areas due to the low pressure off the south coast there. But again, the heaviest rainfall amounts were up on the north coast from Elephant Cove on up to Yakutat there, with a 3/4 of an inch falling. But most everywhere there in the Panhandle had measurable precipitation today. There were a few locations that didn't, but generally cloudy and damp there, cloudy skies. Same thing for the Bering Sea. A lot of clouds out there with a little bit of moisture in the central Bering Sea, with a kind of a weak low trough complex south of the high that's built in across the Pribilof Islands there. And again, the southwest flow winds starting to increase St. Lawrence Island through the Bering Strait as that next front approaches, but look like some clearing there. Brooks Range, eastern north slope, western north slope as well, kind of a break in advance of the front as it comes in. Southwest winds down sloping off the Brooks Range tends to bring VFR flying conditions to especially the eastern Arctic coast, North Slope areas. For tonight, warm front spread some areas of rain and clouds into the North Slope, but doesn't quite make it over to the eastern Arctic coast, Barter Island, Kaktovik area. Showers over the interior, drying out, kind of weak high pressure. We'll keep it dry with light winds from Togiak Bay, Bristol Bay actually, on up into the Kuskokwim Valley. Lingering showers of diminishing variety there for the western Alaska range. Periods of rain. Again, that front really washes out and just breaks up completely, but leftover moisture, look for some rain. Northern Cook Inlet, Manuska Valley, western Copper River Basin, North Gulf Coast, and stays wet over the Panhandle with probably now the heaviest rainfall amounts will be down to the south, Prince of Wales Island, those areas, Dixon Entrance with that low, slowly moving eastward. And low pressure takes a turn to the east there, once the one that's dropping south across the Aleutians currently, takes a turn to the east and just brings a chance of rain, kind of a grazing shot there to the Fox Islands, but could be a fair amount of clearing over the southern Bering Sea with the front farther to the north. And then tomorrow we'll see that front swings eastward. Makes a better jog to the east over the northern interior and the eastern Arctic coast than it does to the south, just kind of dragging across the mid and lower Yukon River Valley out to the Yukon Delta and Nunivak Island. Otherwise, cloudy showers, maybe some areas of light rain, southern Alaska into the eastern interior, North Gulf Coast, mostly cloudy, showery. And same thing for the Panhandle, mostly cloudy skies with a few showers around. And winds starting to kick up behind that trough coming onto the western Arctic coast. Now probably drop snowfall levels close to sea level, so look for some mixed precipitation late tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening there for the central and western Arctic coast. And once that gets into the Brooks Range, any elevation at all, that'll be in the form of snow. Otherwise, high pressure, let me back it up one there, over the western Bering and Aleutians, light winds there with definitely dry conditions. In fact, much of the Aleutians could maybe see some afternoon sunshine, but low clouds and fog will be quite prevalent as well. And then southwest flow with that ridge shifting eastward in toward the southwest coast. Southwest flow will bring surges of moisture northeastward, only making landfall over the western Aleutians, too far away from St. Lawrence Island yet. But dry over the western interior with a high pressure building in. Northwest winds getting pretty gusty. Kodiak Island and through the passes of the western Alaska Range, Kamishak Bay area, Kamishak Gap, could see gusts 45 miles an hour possibly. Out of the northwest, same thing for the channeled areas of Kodiak Island, but possible moderate amounts of rain for Prince William Sound, western Prince William Sound, and the North Gulf Coast in general, with an area of rain ahead of a trough axis and the southerly flow there. Again, upsloping that south to north flow hitting the eastern Brooks Range could result in some moderate amounts of rain there north of the Yukon Flats. Otherwise, scattered showers for the Panhandle with the next system poised to move in Friday night. And for the lows tonight, lower to mid 50s for the southeast coast, 40s, mid 40s to lower 50s, southern Alaska, followed by highs Tuesday, about like today, upper 50s to lower 60s, warmest Kodiak Island, maybe 62, 3 or 4. And actually, same thing for the southern Panhandle, could see some lower to mid 60s possibly, otherwise in the 50s. 50s for the Kuskokwim Valley, Bristol Bay, lows, upper 30s, McGrath, Nikolai area, lower 40s towards Sleepmute, mid to upper 40s, Bristol Bay near 50 Kodiak, upper 40s to lower 50s, southern Alaska there, mid 40s Copper River Basin, lower 50s in the Panhandle. Tad warmer on Friday for the southeast coast, but not too much, 55 to 65, 50s southern Alaska near 60 Bristol Bay, upper 50s Kodiak Island, and up north 30s to lower 40s for your lows tonight, mid to upper 40s in the interior, mid 50s interior tomorrow for the highs, lower 40s Arctic coast and the Bering Strait, followed by a little cooler, upper 20s back in the picture there, especially for the North Slope and Brooks Range, with highs in the 40s, and that's about it for the Tanana Valley, maybe 51 for Fort Yukon, Chuck-Itzig, but kind of cool. Upper 40s out over the Bering Sea, followed by highs in the mid 50s, followed by lows in the upper 40s once again, and then mid to upper 50s for your highs on Friday.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Moving on to flying weather. Some VFR central Arctic coast and North Slope surrounded by marginal VFR and IFR, a band of IFR along the southern slopes of the Brooks Range into the northern Kobuk, Koyukuk, and upper Yukon Valley, Yukon Flats to a certain extent. Otherwise, mostly marginal VFR in the interior. Alaska Range, IFR. Next extends south of the mountains there, right into the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, into the Gulf of Alaska, and the Northeast Pacific, right up to the coastline of the Panhandle, otherwise marginal VFR for the inside waters, and VFR or marginal VFR for Kodiak Island. Not too bad starting the day there, and solid IFR for the Bering Sea and the Aleutians. And for the afternoon, narrow band of IFR right along the frontal boundary there, and then the bent back occlusion up on the Arctic coast north slope a little bit for the western Arctic coast, but IFR down to the Kuskokwim Bay area, and then expands right along the coastline, extending into Bristol Bay and the Aleutian Range and back across the Pribilofs, Fox Islands, western Alaska Peninsula, breaking out to VFR over the western Aleutians, or the west central Aleutians, say AKwx to Amchitka, but shimmying at to IFR, and Prince William Sound, eastern North Gulf Coast, IFR. IFR overspreads all of the Panhandle, continues to improve to VFR in the late afternoon, Kodiak Island from Shelikof Strait, Cook Inlet becoming VFR. IFR lingering over the central western Alaska Range, but becoming VFR over the eastern interior, Yukon Flats into the Copper River Basin, central Tanana Valley, Fairbanks and Anana. Pick up some marginal VFR there for windy. Then for the morning on Friday, that frontal boundary edging eastward with the IFR now from the eastern Arctic coast southward, right into the Susitna Valley, northern Susitna Valley, but Cook Inlet, Kenai Peninsula, marginal, Prince William Sound, the Talkeetnas, western Copper River Basin IFR, southern Copper River Basin IFR, and IFR still mostly for the Panhandle, with the exception of Lynn Canal, northern Glacier Bay, IFR southern Bering from the Fox Islands northwestward there, with that VFR zone shifting over to AKwx, but IFR shimmying at too. And then for the afternoon, not too bad along the western part of the state, south of the Brooks Range, pretty much VFR into south central Alaska, and then Copper River Basin, marginal of VFR with IFR right up to the eastern Alaska Range, some IFR in the central interior. And but VFR, Kodiak Island, Bristol Bay, Alaska Peninsula, band of IFR there from Nikolsky to Atka, and marginal VFR for AKwx, back to IFR shimmying at 2. Passes shaping up like this: Anatuvik IFR tomorrow, pretty easy one for Adigan, mostly IFR throughout the entire day. Lake Clark and Merrill, occasional IFR all day long tomorrow. For Thursday, rainy looks IFR. Windy, same forecast IFR. Isabel, though, a little better, marginal VFR. And then VFR for Mentasta, with drier conditions over that way. Tanita, marginal VFR. Portage, IFR. Chilkoot and White, marginal VFR to start, IFR to finish. And for the freezing levels, 2,000 feet back up over the Russian Far East, 4,000 feet there into the northwest interior, and 8,000 feet central Aleutians and southern Panhandle, but 12,000 feet over the western Aleutians. Icing, areas of moderate, considerable moderate icing of the rime, or just mixed icing, western interior and the eastern North Gulf Coast, the Elfin Cove to Yakutat into the Coast Range. Otherwise, much less of a threat over the south central Alaska area, and then scattered areas over the eastern interior. Jet stream, upper level trough there in the Arctic, and northwest jet, 110 knots coming down out of the Russian Far East, right across St. Lawrence Island, then splits there as it approaches Nunivak Island, weaker branch, 30-knot winds heading toward the east central Aleutians, and a little bit stronger one out of the southwest at 80 knots into the interior. 9,000 feet, northerlies, 45 knots, 40 to 45 knots into the northern Bering Sea. Again, kind of splits there as it approaches the Pribilofs, westerlies 30 knots across Togiak Bay, and 45 out of the southwest in the interior. 3,000 feet, northerlies 35 to 40 knots there, northwest coast across Seward Peninsula, turning westerly over the Kuskokwim Valley. Surface to 5,000 feet, look for a considerable moderate chop, especially for small aircraft. Point Hope to Cape Lisburne, and for the western Seward Peninsula, light to isolated moderate chop over the mid-lower Yukon River Valley out to the Delta and into Togiak, or into Kuskokwim Bay.
Welcome to another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm meteorologist Dave Snyder with the National Weather Service, and joining us today, two more people to talk about the augmented reality sandbox. It's Alana Valaji. She's a University of Alaska Fairbanks mechanical engineering student, helped design and work on the details to make this new type of sandbox there. Thanks for joining us, Alana. And Courtney Breest, she's the outreach coordinator for AKwx, which is the experimental program to stimulate competitive research. It's a program funded nationally by the National Science Foundation, right?
Yes.
Okay. Alana, tell us about how you changed and adapted this version of the augmented reality sandbox. It's a really cool tool.
So Gina approached us with 3 goals for this new version of the sandbox. They wanted it to be compact in a light system that could travel around the state. They wanted it to be child-oriented, so we designed the sandbox to have 3 different levels.
Okay.
It's pretty cool. You can have younger children, you can have high school kids. I guess I should say high school teenagers.
Sure.
And then we also designed it to be more marketable, user-friendly, so that this could be seen eventually in classrooms all over the place, all over the state.
Okay. And you had a big hand in this, but this was a team approach, right?
Definitely. It was a really good experience for myself, for George Stevens, who we'll see later.
One of our hand models today. Yeah.
For 2 other members who aren't here today, Cody Klingman and Austin Hunt. And it was just a really good learning experience all around.
Very good. And this is something that is part of your learning experience as well, so you get to check a box in your education.
Yeah,
right?
it's a requirement for seniors of mechanical engineering at University of Alaska Fairbanks.
Very good. Very good. Well, it is a wonderfully inquisitive tool, fun to play with, and I hope to get my hands in the sand here in just a little bit. But it's also part of a bigger program, something that we were talking about a moment ago, AKwx, and that's what Courtney is here to tell us more about. What is AKwx and why do you need a sandbox?
Well, AKwx, as you mentioned, is a national program. We're funded nationally, but we're actually located statewide. We're at UAF, we're at UAA, we're in Southeast at UAS. And she mentioned, you know, taking the sandbox as an educational tool, and that's where I'm an outreach coordinator for the South Central test case.
Okay.
Our focus is on the Kenai watershed, and we are really interested in using these tools like the sandbox to interact with the students down there and get them interested in STEM and also communicate the research findings that we've been having throughout the state.
Okay. And one of those, as George and Eric are kind of changing the contours for us there from UAF to maybe something that resembles a little bit of something more of the Kenai watershed, which is one of your focuses for the study, right? And specifically looking at some of the changes there and how that impacts people and also the salmon.
Yes, it is all of our research is social and environmental.
Okay.
So we have social scientists working hand in hand with our environmental scientists. One of the things we're studying is Upper Russian Lake, and we have a researcher taking sediment cores from that lake. So one of the things we're going to use the sandbox to communicate is how the landscape changed over a long period of time, thousands of years, going from glacier, covered by glacier ice, to being filled with water. And then
that's what they're doing right now.
Exactly. So
live.
So they're
so
moving
cool.
the water around. And then I think they've got some props over there, because we're also going to go a little bit more in depth and explain how the salmon got there.
Okay.
So using
there's
these,
the salmon.
Exactly. Oh, I think there's a few more.
Yeah, we like more salmon in Alaska. More salmon.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really taking the findings from our research grant and just trying to connect with the community and translate it in a really hands-on and exciting way, so people can, you know, interact with us as much as possible.
Well, sure. That makes the learning and the science real and quite literally in your face, rather than just some boring black and white paper that you have to read about. This is something that people can understand better because it's visual and they're touching and feeling and seeing these changes, right?
Yeah, and get them engaged. And then outreach is a huge component, and working with the younger students, and actually even, I mean, working with the UAF graduate and engineering students it's a huge part of our grant, and we really enjoy it.
Oh, it is wonderfully exciting. And so, Alana, you were telling us that this is built to travel.
Right.
And this is built to do more things than version 1. Where can this type of project go in Alaska? And what can it demonstrate?
I mean, we were hoping to eventually get to villages that were harder to reach, that you couldn't necessarily move a whole fixed instrument to, right? You need something that can pack up, fit in your truck bed. I mean, one of the most attractive parts of this project is that this was going to be something that was used past our graduation point. You know, this is going to be something that lives in the state for years.
Right, right. Well, it looks like you're well on your way with that. So what are, give me another example. What else can this show us? We've talked about the Kenai River watershed. What's the coolest thing that you've played in the sand with? What's your idea?
Well, I definitely enjoy the props, but we also like kind of building up a giant mound, and if you put some water behind it, you can make a little runway, I guess, and you know, demonstrate the effects of the hydrology by just putting up a dam and letting it all pour right down.
Okay.
And so that could, I think you mentioned it earlier, you could even demonstrate the effects of a tsunami.
Right.
Or something along those lines.
So it's not just topography, but it's also hydrology and coastal surge mapping and some of the coastal changes that we're seeing here in Alaska, and seeing what the smaller changes in the sandbox might do to kind of a real effect of a slosh or a push of water up on the coast. Tsunami inundation mapping, or even glacial dam release, as some has been demonstrated before.
Yep.
So wow, that's just an impressive thing. That it seems like the possibilities are nearly endless with this, and probably even more ideas that are popping up in your head too.
Yeah, as we speak.
Very cool. All right. Well, if folks want to get more information about EPSCoR, you guys are online. You're on Facebook, Twitter, and on YouTube. AKwx, right? EPSCoR, Alaska EPSCoR, that is. And again, you guys are funded by the National Science Foundation,
Yes,
so
we are.
more to come from that, and a longer-term study there. Thank you, ladies, for joining us today. Congratulations on your hard work there. This is really fun. And for now, I'm meteorologist Dave Snyder with this edition of Alaska Weather Facts, and I'm going to go play in the sandbox there. We'll see you next time. And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Looking at the coastal water forecast for the southern coast of the Panhandle. Northwest winds 15 to 20 knots for the day Thursday. Seas running 6 to 8 feet. And the north coast west of 15, 5-foot seas. Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay, northern inner channels, winds south at 10 knots with seas at 2 feet. Stevens Passage looking at southwest breeze at 10 knots. Light variable winds in the forecast for Clarence Strait. Seas as high as 4 feet. Outlook for the next day, which is, let's see, Friday? There we go. Yeah, Friday. Follows Thursday. Small craft advisories all along the outer coastline. South coast south to southeast at 25 to 30 knots, 5 to 6 foot seas. North coast southeast 25 to 30 knots, 5 to 6 foot seas also. South winds 20 knots. Lynn Canal, seas 4 feet. South 15 for Stevens Passage. Southeast winds at 15 knots for Clarence Strait with 3-foot seas. And moving on to Thursday, small craft advisories for Cook Inlet, south to southwest winds 25 knots, seas at about 6 feet, west winds 15 knots for Kamishak Bay and the Barren Islands, southwest 15 for the western North Gulf Coast. All three of those zones looking at 4-foot seas, and southwest winds 10 knots for the eastern North Gulf Coast with 4-foot seas. Light variable winds for Prince William Sound laid down pretty good tomorrow, seas running 2 feet. And for Friday, we'll go northeast at 15 for Prince William Sound, seas at about 3 feet. Otherwise, southeast 20 knots there for the Middleton Island area, eastern North Gulf Coast. Western North Gulf Coast, northwest at 20 knots with 6-foot seas. Also, small craft advisories, Kamishak Bay, Barren Islands, 25 to 30 knot winds in those areas with seas 8 to 10 feet. Cook Inlet, north winds 20 knots, seas 5 feet. And for Kodiak Island, east side there, southwest at 20, small craft advisories for southwest winds at 25 knots for Shelikof Strait. Sitkinak to Castle Cape, variable at 10. Castle Cape to Cape Sarachev, east at 15. Light variable winds for the Bering Sea side of the Alaska Peninsula, and west winds at 15 knots for the Bristol Bay zone. On Friday, Bristol Bay and the Bering Sea side of the Alaska Peninsula, all northwest winds down to Cape Sarachev at 15 knots, 3 to 4 foot seas, and then Cape Sarachev to Castle Cape, northwest at 20. Castle Cape to Sitkinak, northwest 25 for small craft advisories. Small craft advisories also for the west side of Kodiak, or east side of Kodiak Island for west winds at 25 knots. And for Unmak Island, northerlies 15 to 20 knots, otherwise on Alaska Island, northeast at 15, seas 3 to 5 feet. And variable to north winds 10 to 15 knots for Adak, variable at 10 for Amchitka Island, Kiska-Deshimia, west winds 15 knots, seas 5 feet. For Friday, western Aleutians, south winds 15 knots, central Aleutians, variable to southwest at 15 and west-southwest 15 knots for the Fox Islands, seas running 3 to 4 feet in the central Aleutians and 4 to 5 feet there to the east. Southwest coast tomorrow, small craft advisories for the Yukon Delta coast, southwest 25 knots, Kuskokwim Delta coast, southwest at 20, northwest 20 for St. Matthew Island. Pribilof's not too bad, westerlies at 15 knots with 3-foot seas. Small craft advisories for Norton Sound, St. Lawrence Island, northwest winds 25 knots, maybe some higher gusts with 7 to 8-foot seas. And for Friday, northwest 15 for Norton Sound, 3-foot seas, southwest 20 for St. Lawrence Island. And Yukon Delta coast, south winds 15 knots, south of Nunivak Island, northerlies at 15 knots, light variable winds for the Pribilof Islands with 3-foot seas, and the speed at about 10 knots. And for the eastern Boulevard Sea coast, central and east side there, south to southeast, 15 knots or so, seas at about 4 feet, but much stronger winds as you head down the coastline there, say toward Point Lay. On down, small craft advisories, northwesterlies at 30 knots with seas as high as 15 feet. And then for Friday, those winds turn west at 25 knots from Wales on up to Cape Thompson. And from Cape Thompson up the western Arctic coast there, west at 20. Central coast, small craft advisories, northwest at 25. And eastern Boulevard Sea coast, also small craft advisories, west winds 25 knots, 8-foot seas. For tonight, next front pushing in to the Bering Strait and along the northwest coast, bringing another round of rain. Gusty southwest winds behind it, and then gusty northwest, or in advance of it, and gusty northwest winds behind it. Continues wet over the Panhandle, cloudy and showers north Gulf Coast, southeast interior, and the Panhandle tomorrow. Rain moves inland, especially to the north there.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.